YouTube channel. I'm Frank Vascellaro. I'll be the debate moderator for the evening. 1 week from tonight, Minneapolis residents will be electing their next mayor. 15 candidates have filed to run, including Mayor Jacob Frey, who is seeking his third term. Joining him on the debate stage are Reverend DeWayne Davis, State Senator Omar Fateh, and Jazz Hampton. Our goal tonight is to help you get to know these candidates better and understand where they stand on important issues. We asked these candidates here tonight based on the latest total campaign dollars that they have raised as reported to the Minnesota Secretary of State. So here's the format that we plan to use. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. They will then each have 45 seconds for a rebuttal if they choose. We may also ask a follow-up question. We ask that you please not speak over one another so viewers can understand your views and positions. And at the end, we'll have a quick lightning round of questions, followed by closing statements where each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. So we've placed a timer on the stage where each candidate can see the clock. Gentlemen, tell me you can all see the clock, please. Okay, beautiful. The order of who goes first and how the candidates respond was chosen through a random drawing. So welcome, really happy to have you here, and we should jump right in and begin, and we're going to begin with public safety. And we'll be coming to you first with this, Reverend Davis. Yes. So while some crime statistics have certainly improved in Minneapolis following the low point in the aftermath of the George Floyd murder, many viewers have expressed to us that they really don't feel safe in the community. There were 920 sworn police officers in Minneapolis in March of 2019. Today, there are about 600. Are the city and the police department doing enough, and what would be your chance to, or your plan to change the perception that Minneapolis is a safe place? And Reverend Davis, we'll start with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. One of the things that I think is very important is something that we certainly did when I was co-chair of the Community Safety Work Group, is that we wanted to see how can we make sure that every part of our public safety ecosystem is fully resourced and operating at full capacity. And so that also means that we absolutely need more police officers. We have got to get that 911 response time down. We've got to get police officers into places so they can do safety. But we also need to invest in the other parts of that community safety ecosystem. That is expanding behavioral crisis response so that they can be in the city and responding to mental health challenges. We also need to invest in our violence interrupter program. But we need to make sure that that violence interrupter program is meeting the needs of particular communities. And so when I co-chaired that community safety work group, we said that we need to collect data, we need to evaluate data, and we need to set outcomes based upon what's going on in a particular neighborhood. And so if all of these things are operating at full capacity and fully resourced, then we could make sure that every part of a safety system is working. That also means that we free up police to do what we need them to do. That is, respond to very serious emergencies right away, get that 911 call, but also to investigate and clear cases. That is a very good crime prevention model for us, to get those crimes cleared. But on the whole, we are now under a court enforceable settlement agreement. The job of the mayor right now is to make sure that those reforms are embedded, to keep it front and center, to set expectations for the chief of police and the police department, and to let our citizens know what we're doing and the progress we're making. Then I think we can have the kind of safety we're looking for.
Thanks for keeping that to 2 minutes. Mr. Hampton, same question, please.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having us, and
Sure.
thanks for giving us this opportunity. Let me start by explaining the very first thing we have to do within the city of Minneapolis in this conversation is build back that trust. It's been 5 years since the tragic loss of George Floyd, and what we have struggled to do is regain that trust between public safety as a whole and the other underlying residents. Once we build back that trust, we can do the great work around ensuring that we reach the charter minimums to start of the amount of police officers we have within this city. We also need to build out the behavioral crisis response team, and for those who don't know, those are the folks who come when you have a mental health crisis or someone is calling for that, and we have a different resource to deliver rather than the police department. And beyond that, it's also the 911 center. In the course of this campaign, I've done a ride along in both the 911 call center and with the behavioral crisis response team. And what I saw was incredibly dedicated folks that are overworked and they're tired and they need more resources. And here's the thing. We've had some progress, but not enough. When I talk to mayors from other cities, they say, not only do we not know if the residents trust the police officers, we don't know if the police officers are trusting that they're wanted by the residents as well. That's the work of building trust that we have to do. And here's an example. When I was at my barbershop on Broadway in North Minneapolis, my barber said, officers don't come in here and get to know us, the ones that walk the beat here. What if they came in soft uniform opportunities instead of with an intimidating presence in the khakis and the polos? More of these opportunities because they're in a precinct in a specific area. This is where we can build trust, and doing that can also help the pipeline that we have to come, because we need to show some of these students that are in high school that in just a matter of a few years, you can be a part of an incredible public safety system, one that's making us all feel safe and protects the neighborhood you grew up in. That's what we're all trying to strive for in this city, and frankly, my goal is to do that work faster. We have not done enough of it at the rate that I think any of us residents want. And once we're able to do that with a better, more robust behavioral crisis response team, with more violence interruption that is being monitored and we're ensuring we do well, then we can deliver on public safety for our city.
Thank you. Senator Fateh, same question. Love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, we envision a public safety system that works for everyone. And what I mean by that is when you call 911, you get the appropriate response at the right time. Too many times we heard stories from neighbors that when they call 911, either the call gets dropped, the call takes too long to connect, or the police take a while to show up or don't show up at all. And so we know right now that we don't need an armed officer for every single phone call. We had a city report that came out that showed that nearly half of 911 calls to MPD can be diverted away, which shows that we need to beef up all alternatives, like strengthening our BCR, strengthening mental health workers, violence interrupters. And that clicks exactly with what I heard at the Capitol from law enforcement when they said and testified that they cannot respond to every single phone call. They need help. They said, give us the resources, give us the help we need to respond to things like the mental health crisis calls. And so I worked with my colleagues to bring in $19 million in public safety aid. And by doing that, by taking off half of the caseload off of their plates, we're able to do things like have alternatives respond to the scene and have our officers focus on violent crime, things like human trafficking, gun violence, drug trafficking, clearing the case backlog, taking back the investigators and having them solve the crimes that they're meant to do. We think that's the right approach to take. But we also have to tackle the issue of poverty, making sure that people have a livable wage, making sure that folks have a school system that meets the needs of their children, and being proactive, thinking long term. How are we going to invest in our youth for the future? That means having youth programming. That means having youth jobs for our kids. Investing in programs like I helped invest in the Teen Teamworks program for our youth in the parks, in which they're able to go during the summertime when school's out and get a livable wage. And talking with those kids, it meant a lot for them. They're able to help their families pay rent. And so these kids that you're seeing in the media that are portrayed a certain light, no, we need to invest in them and do our part as a city.
Thank you. Mayor Frey.
My number one priority as mayor is public safety. And we've been doing the hard work in Minneapolis to drive down crime. As you mentioned, shootings are down. Homicides are down. In fact, on the north side right now, shootings are at the lowest point at any time on record, or at least since 2007 when we started keeping better records. How do we get there? Well, first, we worked directly with community members. We worked with moms and grandmoms to drive down crime and deal with difficult situations before they arise. We worked with our U.S. Attorney's Office and embedded police officers there to make sure that we were arresting perpetrators of violent crime and working with community members to prevent these situations from occurring. Other candidates have mentioned the comprehensive approach to public safety. We haven't just talked about it, we're doing it. We now have a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week mental health response, and we're building it out further from there. We do work around youth rec to make sure that children, it's not just about telling them not to go down the bad route, it's giving them a good route to go down and providing recreational opportunities so that they have good, positive things to do. And we need more police officers. We have fewer officers per capita than virtually any city in the entire country. During the most difficult times, I have stood up against defunding the police. When people came to my doorstep, I said, yes, we need reform, but no, we are not going to go down the route of defunding the police. That is the difference. Senator Fateh has clearly stated that he wanted to defund the police. That is not the right route in Minneapolis. We need to build back the police department. We need to make sure that when people call 911 during the most difficult circumstances of their life, they have a response from a police officer.
Senator, I can tell you're itching to respond, and as we built in 45 seconds for that. So
Thank you. Itching just a little bit.
Okay.
But I want to just mention one thing. If I was a defender, Mr. Mayor, would I be working hard to bring in $19 million in public safety aid for the city of Minneapolis? Money that largely went untouched because the mayor and the city council couldn't agree on how to spend it. The city council wanting to spend it on the way it's supposed to be, on the alternatives to beef up BCR and the other teams, while the mayor wanted to spend it on the upper management salaries. I don't think that's the right approach. We got to make sure that we know we need to be more strategic. If we need to beef up our alternatives, that's where the money is supposed to go to, number one. He mentioned defunding. Right now, we know that every single year since the murder of George Floyd, the police budget has only gone up to historic levels every single year. It has not been defunded, so that's categorically false. But what we do know is that 5 years since the murder of George Floyd, there has been a continuing of a strategic failure. There has been no plan in place by the mayor and no intent to have a plan.
Just briefly, you don't need to take my word for it. Look it up. Omar Fateh completely defunding the police department. You can see for yourself online.
Well, Senator, I mean, you didn't have a vote in how much money the police department gets from a city level, but I do know in 2020 when you ran for Senate, I remember, campaign literature, and we had a 2021 vote in the city about creating a Department of Public Safety versus a police department, and you did support that.
Absolutely, I did support that, and that was meant to have a public safety system in which you have an Office of Public Safety, Department of Public Safety, and law enforcement police under that, because that's what neighbors wanted and were pushing for. Now, in terms of defunding, you can go to my past website, my State Sen website, they have the screenshots. Those are conversations in which we were pushing for the City Council to listen to community and for City Council to work together to have a plan in public safety that meets the needs of everyone. And what does that mean? That means what we're doing right now, having a BCR, having mental health response beefed up. But we can't just do it alone. We need to work with our partners at the Capitol, especially, to bring in extra dollars. There's a reason why the mayor doesn't have any state legislators endorsing him. He cannot work with them.
Mayor, I'll let you jump in a second, but go ahead, gentlemen.
Yeah, and if I could just touch on something, the numbers, specifically you reference of gunshot wound victims, it is down compared to last year, but the 4-year average for the last 4 years in 2024 and back, it's around 498 victims per year. That is much higher than the 4 years than before this current administration took office. At that time, it was around 280 per year on average. So we have gone up, yes, and in the last year it has gone down a little bit, but it is a far cry from where we were years ago. And I've lived here for my entire life in the Twin Cities. I know the potential that this city has, and I just want to make sure we're living up to that.
And I just want to say, I'm a resident of North Minneapolis, and I talk to my neighbors quite often. And one thing that is very clear to us is that people do not feel safe. People do not feel the presence of a police that they can trust. And so we've got a lot of work to do that. But also, I'm, as a North Side resident, so in the beginning of this year, we had so many gunshots from automatic weapons right in front of my home. And I saw the police officers going around looking for shell casings. So we didn't feel safe. I just want to point out that we have to look at the perception and what's actually happening. How do we make sure that we assure our citizens that we are doing it? And finally, I want to make sure that we don't fall for false choices. There is a world of opportunity between a military style occupying police force and defunding, and we need to work together to make sure we give our citizens what they need.
Well, let me ask a really simple question then as a follow-up. What do you believe is the appropriate number of sworn police officers needed for public safety in Minneapolis? And we'll just go down the line if that's
I'll say let's meet the Charter Commission's number, but we also need to do real analysis to figure out what we need, and that requires real work with the Public Safety Commissioner and the Chief of Police really sort of keeping us abreast of what's going on, as well as how well our community safety ecosystem is working.
But not under the charter. You want to at least
Not under the charter, no.
Mr. Hampton?
We have to meet the charter numbers, and we are far short of that. And doing that first is the first step. And then after, if we determine we need more officers at that moment, or if we determine that the behavioral crisis response team is doing just enough to prevent us from needing more, but absolutely we need to meet the charter number.
Senator?
Yeah, it's the law. We have to continue to meet the charter. However, we're asking our police officers to do too much. We're asking them to address the basic societal failures of a lack of a social safety net for our people, which is housing, education, healthcare, and a whole host of their basic needs. Unless we meet that, no matter how many officers you include to the force, public safety will continue to be an issue.
Mr. Mayor?
So as mayor, I don't deal with these situations or these numbers as hypotheticals. We deal with them as real life and death situations. And even at the charter minimum, we would be one of the lowest cities per capita in terms of officers in the entire country. So we need substantially more than that. We need to get back at least to the 888 officers that we had prior to 2020. And I'll just say this. In 2020, there was a group of a couple thousand people that came to my home. They asked me to come outside and I wanted to express solidarity with the push to reform the police department. And they asked me, will you commit to defunding the police? And I said no. And it was hard. I got publicly shamed. I had food thrown at me. But it was the right thing to do. I will take the right position even when it isn't politically expedient to do so. That's the kind of leadership that we need in the city, not shifting the position depending on which way the political winds are blowing.
Let's move on to homelessness and homeless encampments. They've been headline-grabbing issues for years. In September, as we all know, a woman was shot and killed and 7 people injured at the encampment and the Sabri property. If you want to go back a year, October 24, 3 men were shot and killed in shootings at encampments. I could go back even further. There have been shootings, there have been deaths. What is your plan for dealing with homelessness, homeless encampments in Minneapolis? And Mr. Hampton, time to start with you first on this one.
You know, my experience in this space started by joining the board at Catholic Charities five years ago and seeing firsthand how we can deliver services in the best way possible. And so let me start there. We have to have a housing first solutions with the necessary aid directly in proximity. That means if someone needs mental health crisis counseling, if they need drug addiction services, those have to be located directly in proximity within the space that they're living. And these shelters have to be low barrier. That means we aren't rejecting them if they have additional needs. We're actually bringing them in because they have additional needs. And the next question often is, how do we get there? How do we build that infrastructure? We have to partner with nonprofit organizations and begin building those solutions right here in the city of Minneapolis. On one hand, we talk about vacant buildings all the time and then talk about a need for more space for our individuals that are currently unhoused. We need to bring these things together in this moment. And I've seen it done incredibly well at an organization that I've been a part of for 5 years. So then how do we do it tactically? When we're going out there, we have to use what is called a by name approach. That means if there's 38 people in an encampment, you know that person's name and you say, hi Sarah, how are you? I understand maybe you're hesitant to go into this shelter because it's a women's only shelter and you have a loved one that you would rather sleep outside with for years than go inside by yourself and then deliver a different solution the next day, the next, and the next, based on a relationship that you have built. And I can promise you this, we have 4 people right now, from my count, that work on the homelessness response team. More people live in my house than work on that team. We do not have enough staff to do that work at this time. We can partner with the county to have more staff and more dollars in this moment, as well as the state. Because if it's hurting us, it's hurting the county and it's hurting the state as well. And when we're delivering these solutions, it's like chopping down a tree. You don't know which swing is ultimately going to be the one that makes it topple down, but you have to keep trying again and again. And in this moment, when it feels like there's so much tension, yes, you have to document the entire process and be transparent. Because if we are not transparent in this moment, there's going to be a lack of trust that we're actually doing the work.
Thanks. Senator?
Yeah, nobody wants encampments. It's unfair to our unhoused neighbors. It's unfair to our local neighborhoods, our local businesses. But the approach that I want to take is to clear encampments by actually housing people versus the mayor who wants to clear encampments by bulldozing our neighbors. And that's the clear distinction. It's heartbreaking. I had a mother in Phillips tell me that she can't have her child play in the front yard without picking up a needle. I think that's a story that's heartbreaking. No family should be living through that. I want to make sure that we are taking a housing first approach, investing more in our shelters to make sure that we're partnering again with our county and with our state to bring in funding, and investing in treatment. We got to do all of the above. But again, we can't go at it alone. We got to have a cross-jurisdictional approach. And you can check my record. I have the experience at the Capitol bringing in millions of dollars after I went on the ground, talked to organizations, talked to our unhoused neighbors, visited shelters, bringing in millions of dollars to folks like Simpson, Avivo, Agate, because we were told time and time again that there's not enough beds and there's not enough funding for them to maintain their operations. And so our approach is to make sure that we're taking a housing first approach and supporting that. Now, what's also critically important is to move away the response to homelessness out of regulatory services back into health. And that's crucial because this is a public health emergency. It is a public health crisis. We know that there is spread of infectious diseases within our encampments like hepatitis and syphilis and HIV. And so we need to do things like providing sanitary stations, providing them abilities to wash themselves, providing safe needle disposal and things like that. But unfortunately, bulldozing them block by block is not a solution. Bulldozing our neighbors does not house them, and it only allows another encampment to prop up. Yes, there's gun violence going to happen. Yes, there's trafficking that's been happening under the mayor's watch. And that's proven to us that his current solution has not been one that's long-term for our neighbors. And I think we deserve better.
Mr. Mayor.
So we do provide a housing first approach. In fact, Minneapolis is broadly recognized as one of the top housing cities in the entire country. We are providing 8.5 times the amount of deeply affordable homes since before I took office. We are providing more affordable homes at the workforce level, and we have kept rents down more than virtually any city in the country. And we need to do more. So what are we doing around unsheltered homelessness and specifically encampments? Well, we do send a homeless response team out. We partner with the county. We work with our health department. We bring people out to provide culturally sensitive care and service. We provide addiction treatment. We even bring a mobile medical unit out to the encampment where we can provide health care and wound treatment. And then we do that again. And then we do that again. And yes, when services have been offered repeatedly and declined, we do close the homeless encampment. Therein lies the difference between what I am saying we should do and what Senator Fateh is saying we should do. He has very clearly stated that he would not close a homeless encampment for any reason, including a mass shooting. And the encampment that you mentioned specifically ago, the Sabri encampment, that individual, Sabri, is now bankrolling Senator Omar Fateh's PAC that is supporting him. And so, look, we need to do the real work around providing people with homes. We also need to recognize the reality. And here's the thing. I get the briefings on the 12-year-old girl that is getting trafficked through these homeless encampments. I get the briefing about the retaliatory shooting that is about to take place. I was out there at 1:30 in the morning at that Sabri property, and I saw what it was like. Here's the thing. We got to offer people homes. We got to offer them treatment. And yes, it is not safe to continuously have these encampments.
Senator Fateh, is that true? Would you, if a homeless encampment popped up on your watch, if you were mayor, would you let it stay or would you remove it?
Well, he's bringing up gun violence in a homeless encampment, but we know that gun violence is an issue everywhere. It's an issue in our public spaces. It's an issue on our campuses, in our schools. So it's not just limited to our encampments. It's easier to dunk on them because they can't defend themselves, but that's the reality. It's unfortunate that we have a situation in which a private citizen, Sabri, as he mentioned, had to address the situation, and it shouldn't be that way. He opened up an encampment to have neighbors congregate there, but it shouldn't be that way. We should be providing a housing-first approach. And the mayor tries to speak about his record, but the reality is, under his leadership, we've seen encampment after encampment after encampment prop up. That's not leadership, that's a failure. Every gun violence situation, every person being hurt, every person being killed is happening under the mayor's watch.
So, Mayor, I'll let you go ahead.
Yes, I just want to step in here because it's important for me to say this. An encampment, in the way this conversation has happened, we should have a homelessness response team and an outreach such that encampments don't form in the first place. What are we doing to make sure that when one person sets up in a space, that we have the outreach, we had the intention that we are moving them away before an encampment takes place. If you let an encampment form in the first place, if it gets to 20, 30, 40 people, of course there's going to be crime. And of course you're going to have to send in law enforcement. But why can't we go there and be proactive and be clear with a plan that we're going to have a homeless response team and office that's going to work so hard that we won't have time for an encampment to take place in the first place. And here's how I know that. I spent some time with the Jordan Area Community Council in North Minneapolis, who joined with the Twin Cities Recovery Project because they found a whole bunch of people. They weren't camping there, but they just saw a movement of unhoused people. And what they decided to do was real outreach. Let's sit down and find out what's going on. And you know what we found out? Just their results. That when you're giving a chance to find out what people need and you begin to tailor it and you begin to use nonprofits and the county, and you can begin to move people into the kind of care they need. And I know that from first-hand experience. As a minister, unhoused people would come to the church every single day. And I would do what others do. I would pick up that handbook of the streets and I'll start going through numbers, trying to figure out how to help. But you know what was always missing? We did not have someone in the city that could guide us in how to provide services to our unhoused neighbor. We had to string it together from different places and different organizations and different areas. Why not give ourselves a chance, invest in that homelessness response team so that encampments won't form in the first place?
Mr. Mayor, I know you wanted to jump in.
Well, I appreciate that the candidates want to do more of a homeless response team because it was something that I proposed from the very beginning. I appreciate that they want to add prevention from these homeless encampments from forming in the first place, and that was actually something that we proposed and they supported in having cut by the City Council. And here's the thing, Minneapolis is one of the very few cities in the entire country that is seeing a dramatic decrease in unsheltered homelessness. We're down by over 33%, while other cities are seeing it increase. Are we there yet? No. Is this one of the most complex situations that we can deal with? Absolutely. And at the same time, we need to make progress that is functioned and is dealing in reality.
Real quickly, if you want to add something, Mr. Hampton?
Yeah, and I will make it quick. I feel like a lot of folks get frustrated with back and forth, so I just want to be direct. My goal is that uneasy feeling that you might see when you see a neighbor sleeping outside, is that my belief is it's our conscience saying we aren't doing enough in helping. And my goal is to have a number and a team that you can call in that moment that gives you the confidence that it will be addressed. That personal feeling that you get when you aren't doing something can be subsided, because under my leadership, my goal is to have a number and a resource that you have confidence calling when you see this in our city. Thank you.
I want to move on to immigration. We all know about the raid on June 3rd on Lake Street in South Minneapolis. It involved federal agents and ICE agents as well. Minneapolis police came in. They provided crowd controls. That situation got pretty chaotic. A report by the city auditor later found that police did not violate the city's separation ordinance, which prohibits city employees from enforcing federal immigration laws. So this is a document from MIRAC, the Minnesota Immigration Rights Action Committee. I want to ask you about changes with immigration policy as it relates to Minneapolis, but before I do that, I need to clear one thing up because it'll influence my question a little bit, or how we ask it. Senator Fateh, I know I've seen you on social. You were in full support of this. Yes. Reverend Davis and Jazz Hampton, were you as well on board with?
I'm in support of having a conversation about that, and in support of having a debate about what we can do.
But not necessarily all 585.
Yeah, I think there'll be some other things we can include.
And that?
They're community leaders that I want to have at the table, and that means I might not agree with every bullet point that's within there, but I agree with getting them to the table for the conversation.
Well, then I'll ask the question this way, because I know, Senator Fateh, that you did give your full throttled support for it. There's some things in here that some people will find interesting. A note that MPD should immediately arrest any law enforcement agent or officer at any level of government with any agency who covers their face or obscures their identity or badge by any means, or refuses to identify their agency either to an MPD officer or an MPD resident. And NPD will refuse to respond to federal requests for assistance. Well, that part we know. But this part about MPD, about police officers arresting federal agents, how would that be possible, Senator? And by the way, it is your turn to go first, so it's
good timing.
Good timing, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, I appreciate the question, and we have to use every tool at our disposal to protect our most vulnerable communities. What we saw on Lake and Bloomington on June 3rd was that there's a strategic failure on behalf of the city to properly disseminate information to City Council and to community members. In fact, myself and the other candidates here, my brothers DeWayne and Jazz, we didn't show up because we heard from the city about what was happening. We showed up because the boots on the ground organizations are the ones that let us know. And what we're saying is that if there are masked and folks that are also covering their badge, concealing their badges, that should be illegal. And you don't have to take only my word for it. This is a national issue. We know that national Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, with the support of her district attorney in San Francisco, have called on the same thing, saying that local law enforcement has the ability to enforce local law if folks are concealing their faces and concealing their badges. Right now, more than ever, we have to stand up for all of our communities, and I'm willing to use every tool at my disposal to do so. The mayor is unwilling and unable to do so because the same members that are bankrolling Donald Trump's campaign have been bankrolling his campaign as well. Last year, in 2024, nearly a third of his donations came from MAGA donors, including one person that actually donated $500,000 to Trump's PAC to make sure that these exact policies that we're afraid of and terrorize our communities are impacting us right now. And so the reason why the mayor is unable and unwilling to do so is because he literally cannot. These are the same folks that are supporting him. And so yes, I want to make sure that we're strengthening our separation ordinance, making sure that in any situation that MPD is not assisting ICE, whether it's for crowd control, any form of collaboration. We had ICE send out an email that became public information. Now it's leaked. You can go online. Thanking MPD for assisting them and being escorted off the scene. I think that should be not happening. Any officer should be terminated for that situation. And so now more than ever, we gotta stand up for all of our vulnerable communities, especially our undocumented neighbors.
Okay. Mayor, I can tell you want to jump in, and it's your turn, so good timing on that as well.
So Senator Fateh is arguing that we collaborate with federal agencies around immigration law enforcement. Well, just last Friday, Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, was here and criticized me explicitly by name for not collaborating with the federal agencies around immigration law enforcement. Here's the thing, and the auditor's report proved it. We will not work with any federal agency around immigration law enforcement, period. We will stand up for our undocumented neighbors. We will do everything possible to protect them. In Minneapolis, we love them. They make our city a better place, and we will stand by them, period. We're working preemptively to sue the Trump administration. We're working directly with these immigrant communities to make sure that we've got communication channels that are up and running. And again, as mayor, I deal with these situations not as hypotheticals, but in reality. And the commitment was made by Senator Fateh and the other two candidates as well in that MIREC proposal, and Senator Fateh said this, that he would direct Minneapolis police to arrest federal agents. Look, that would endanger the very people that we are trying to help. Simply put, we're asking our police officers to arrest federal agents, which is illegal, and arrest people that have bigger guns than we have. Look, that endangers everybody. That is exactly what Donald Trump wants. He wants democratically run cities to get in a war with the federal government. This would be handing him exactly what he wants on a silver platter. So my simple question to Senator Omar Fateh is this: how will you arrest federal agents? How will you have MPD arrest people with bigger guns than we have in a situation that is blatantly against the law?
Why don't you answer, Senator, and then we'll get the other guys.
No, thank you. Simply enforcing the law, and that's a cute soundbite, but again, he's unable and unwilling to do so because the same people that bankrupt the Trump campaign to put him to office, to push for these exact same unconstitutional violations and policies, have been bankrolling his campaign.
That's not answering the question.
That is the exact truth. Whether you like it or not, Mr. Mayor, that's the truth. And so we're making sure that we're protecting at all costs our undocumented neighbors. Now, the mayor can say that he's standing up 100% for them. That's a lie. He said, for example, he'll end homelessness within 5 years. No. That was a lie. He said that he'll reform the police 5 years later, after the murder of George Floyd, we still have seen nothing. This just is another instance of him lying, saying that he's going to stand up for the community. In reality, he's been doing the opposite.
I appreciate that. It's still not answering the question. How would we do that?
Well, I'll let folks, we'll get to you because I want to hear what you two have to say about immigration. But this MIRAC document, I can let people know, is on change.org. If people want to look at it, there's many points which you are supporting, and perhaps you guys are or not. We'll find out.
Well, yeah, you will find out. So here's what I want to start off. First of all, let's start off with this. Everything you're asking about this situation with our immigrant communities and these raids, let's start with the understanding. What the federal administration is doing is unconstitutional. Let's start there. And so what is your responsibility when your nation is doing unconstitutional things? Let's start there. So when I went out there on June 3rd with that raid, at the very moment that those federal officers were out there, Department of Homeland Security was in the courts trying to explain to the judges why it is that they were detaining and deporting people without due process of law, meaning they were acting unconstitutionally. So what the mayor doesn't seem to understand is when we have a federal government that's acting unconstitutionally, what are you doing to really assure people that you're going to do everything in your power? So yes, I stand with MIRAC, but here's another thing. I don't believe in false choices. I believe in bringing people to the table. You talk about what you want to do, and we talk about what we're going to do that addresses the unconstitutionality, that gives us the opportunity to say, can we pass laws and regulations to make sure that we are responding to an unconstitutional federal government? That also means being very aggressive in our lawsuits. That's also being aggressive in filing for injunctive relief. But I think right now it should be all hands on deck, whole of government, cross-jurisdictional work and strategizing to make sure that we can respond to an unconstitutional federal government. And that's what we've seen from Governor Pritzker in Illinois and Mayor Johnson in Chicago. A real aggressive and strategic response, but also, here's the more important too, talking to their residents about what they're going to do. We need more of that, more of assurances, more clear that you're going to stand with immigrant communities and with the city on this stuff.
Mr. Hampton, immigration, and also the MIRAC document, please.
Actually, I think this MIRAC issue that we're discussing is center of my entire belief of my campaign. It's that I can meet with an organization that cares deeply about one of the biggest issues that we are talking about. And we can have small or medium-sized disagreements on how to attack that issue and how to deliver a solution. And because I disagree on 1 or 2 points does not mean that I won't meet with them and work with them when they are the ones on the ground doing the work. It is the power of our democracy, especially in the city of Minneapolis, to work with some that don't agree with you. And that's also what I believe I will do as mayor. So yes, if I've asked every single city council member to door knock with me. And if one that disagrees with me on rent stabilization wants to door knock with me, what a good opportunity to do it. What a good opportunity to go and learn firsthand what our needs are. So what are the needs in immigration? We have to ensure that we strengthen the ordinance that separates the police department and what ICE and federal agents are coming in here to do. And by strengthen, I mean make more clear. If the officers are going there, yes, they have to go. If 911 is called and they said there's a whole bunch of people here in SUVs and guns, we need our police department to go there. And if people are expressing their First Amendment rights in that moment, we need them to stand there, protect them in the moment. The job of our police department is to protect them. Listen, the ICE budget went from $8 billion to $28 billion. That is money that is being pumped in to terrorize our neighbors in this moment. And our police department's job is to make sure that we are safe, we can exercise our constitutional right, and then solve crime that are there. We just have to make sure the officers' boots are pointing in the right direction in this moment. And frankly, that's what I hear from MIRAC, that's what I hear from residents, that's what I hear from folks when I'm having the conversation with them. And that's my goal as the mayor within the city of Minneapolis. So when the police show up, they say, we pointed our boots in this direction, we saw some things escalated, we ensured that people remain safe and exercise their rights in the way that they should, and we didn't have people grabbed by federal law enforcement, thrown on the ground, and knocked unconscious like I saw that day. That's our work in the city of Minneapolis.
Mr. Mayor, you want to respond?
I would. The Trump administration is very clear that we won't cooperate with them. That's why they are screaming out loud and coming to Minneapolis to criticize both Governor Walz and me. I'm proud to be working directly with Governor Walz on this exact topic. I am proud, by the way, to have his endorsement in this campaign. And we are proud to be working together on behalf of immigrants in our city. It was mentioned that we should be preemptively suing. We are. It was mentioned that we should have partnerships with immigrant communities. We do. And at the same time, there was a question that they committed to be very clear, and Senator Omar Fateh committed to, which was that they would arrest federal agents. That would endanger the very people that we are trying to protect.
I want to move on because this is related as we want to talk about gun control, and it's such a big issue. After the mass shooting in Annunciation Church and School, voters have been demanding change. Right now, state law does not allow cities to create their own gun control policy. So it's a tough question, but we wanted to ask it because we were wondering as mayor what you would do to try to change that. And what's your plan? Would you try to work with the state? Would you fight the state to allow Minneapolis to have more policy control over guns and gun control in the city? And Mr. Mayor, it's your turn to start.
I was one of the first civilians on site following that mass shooting. And you see things that you never want to see, and you hear things that you never want to hear. And it's infuriating that time and again we have these mass shootings and we don't do anything about it. Other countries experience these mass shootings and they say, you know what, that's not right. We need to change this for the sake of our children. The only difference is in America, we don't. Soon after the Annunciation shooting, I was very clear on what the answers are. We know what the answers are because they've been the same answers 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and 25 years ago. We need to ban fully automatic weapons at the state and federal level. We need to ban high-capacity magazines at the state and federal level. And if the state and the feds are either unwilling or unable to get the job done, give us the ability to do it in cities. Because I, as mayor, I'm the one that gets the calls at 1:30 in the morning that yet another kid has been gunned down. We have conversations with families that are grieving, and we owe it to them to love our children more than we love our guns. So we're building out a coalition with mayors around the state. We're working directly with legislative partners to make sure that we can get the job done at the state and federal legislatures as well. But we can't stop there. If they're not going to be willing to do it, we have to do it here locally.
Reverend Davis.
Thank you so much. You know, I have, in my time working on Capitol Hill as a congressional staffer, I've been working on gun control for many years, and that is a battle that has been joined, and we must stay in the fight. I've talked to so many parents and so many activists about this. Stay in the fight. For far too long, we've been out-argued, out-spent, and out-lobbied in banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazine clips. And here's the thing. Certainly we can do everything. Certainly we can pass laws, even with state preemption. We can put on the books banning assault weapons, registering guns, and banning high-capacity clips. But here's another issue that's going to bedevil us. And that issue is we are surrounded by states who are not going to act that way. Even if tomorrow we are able to convince our state legislature to ban those weapons, we are surrounded by states that still have freedom to purchase those weapons. So that means I want people to understand here, we are not helpless or hopeless in this. Once we ban those weapons, we've got the real hard work of making sure that our communities are safe. And what that means is our public safety system must also be actively engaged of protecting communities from gun violence. And so what I would task the Public Safety Commissioner and the Chief of Police is to work on a comprehensive violence intervention and reduction plan that really addresses gun violence in our communities, especially among our children, and have it be a cross-jurisdictional effort that is refreshed every year so that we can know what progress we're making. We can know where we need to move, where we need to change, where we need to adjust, what we need from the state legislature to help us in that fight against gun violence. So this means that we need to be operating at several levels of banning guns, but also at the level of really responding to the gun violence that hits our community, especially like mine.
Jazz Hampton.
You know, this hit home. I've lived here for my entire life. I graduated from Holy Angels. I've coached in that Annunciation gym. My heart and prayers go to those families still to this day. And then we have to keep doing the work, as the folks from that school said. So what is the work? I believe we have to put an ordinance on the books yesterday that does this work of banning the assault weapons, of banning the large capacity magazines, and ensuring safe storage laws for guns within homes as well, because the rate of suicide goes up when there's an unsecured gun in a home, and the rate of black suicide in this moment has continued to grow around this area. We have to take those steps. Here's the thing, if people don't know, not only am I a lawyer, I was an adjunct professor of law. I care deeply about how to craft laws in a way that can actually work. So let's talk about preemption. You have to know that a preemption law means the cities cannot change the city ordinance. However, just like what we tragically saw with abortion within the country recently, as soon as that big law is gone, you can put an ordinance on the books that will snap it into place immediately. So we have to put those ordinances on the books today. And once they're there, we can turn to our partners in the state legislature and say, it's already on the books. We won't even argue about what we need to do. It's already there. We just need you all to remove preemption. And if they won't remove preemption from the entire state, carve the city of Minneapolis out. Just remove it for our city in this moment. That is what we're begging to do, and that's what I will long and call for when I'm mayor here in Minneapolis. And yes, so much more has to be done beyond that. We have to ensure that the mental health solutions that are within schools are evenly spread in the city of Minneapolis, both at all types of schools, but especially as a Minneapolis public school parent myself of 3 children, our public schools have to have more of these offerings within them as well. Beyond that, we have to ensure that the before, after school programs are robust and people are feeling safe at those as well.
Thank you. Senator Fateh?
Yeah, I think this is an issue that we all agree upon. The idea that not only we can't keep our residents safe, but especially our children, is heartbreaking. And we've seen that now as a cross-generational, multi-generational issue, going all the way we can remember from Columbine to Annunciation. And my son just recently turned 2 months. I don't want this issue to continue on to his generation. I've heard the painful stories at the Capitol from families, from parents, coming, sharing their stories, losing loved ones to gun violence. And at times, yes, gun violence from weapons that are used in war. That's heartbreaking. I voted on things like background checks, red flag laws, but we know we're not doing enough. And now more than ever, we believe that it's time that we have a mayor that's going to show up to the Capitol, lobbying the legislature, talking to folks in D.C., going to D.C., talking to our federal partners as well, coming up with solutions at the city level so that, as Jazz said, things can click. Once we pass our ordinances and we get it right at the state, we can make it happen. But this is going to take an all-hands-on-deck approach because we know that right now we're way insufficient. We're not doing enough for our children and for our families. And so that's the approach I would like to take. And now I remember some of the arguments that our Republican colleagues were having at the Capitol around protecting the Second Amendment and not wanting to take away guns. And we know that's wrong. And in our attempts to even support more mental health funding, there are attempts at the federal and state level not to do so. And so, yes, we can do both, but we need a mayor that's going to show up to the Capitol, both in D.C. and at the state, to partner with him to make it happen.
Yeah. I can tell there's a lot of consensus, but Mayor Frey, I can see you'd like to respond as well.
I did show up at the Capitol at least 3 times on this issue alone in just the last couple of months. And here's the thing. We're not talking about your father's hunting rifle. We're talking about guns that were literally designed to kill large numbers of people in a very short period of time. We're talking about the ability to reel off 30 or more bullets before you have to reload. We do not need these weapons of war in our city. We need to be doing the proactive work so that we're preventing these guns from coming in. We need to arrest perpetrators of violent crime and specifically shootings. And at the same time, as mayor, we will put in place an ordinance to make sure that we don't need to deal with this kind of thing in the future, and we love our children more than our guns.
I'd like to turn to taxes, please. And some of these numbers are staggering. In the past 20 years, Minneapolis has seen a total city tax increase of 204%. There's a Redfin survey out that shows from 2019 to 2024, Minneapolis property taxes went up in that period of time by 28%. So we kind of have a three-pronged question for you. Wondering, are Minneapolis residents taxed appropriately? What would your budget prioritize? And for our viewers out there, a Minneapolis city budget is about $2 billion. What would you prioritize? And are they taxed appropriately? And then also, do you have plans for other revenue sources? And Reverend Davis, it's your turn to start.
Thank you so much. You know, one of the first elected officials I talked to when I was thinking about running for mayor was someone from the Board of Estimate and Taxation. And what I really wanted to talk about was what was the nature of the conversation in the city around how we were going to make sure that we were not continually saddling the residents with ever-increasing property taxes. And I was very disappointed to hear that that conversation was not broad enough or expansive enough, that we were not really doing the kind of analysis and the kind of conversations that we should for revenue generation, for making sure that we're not, and even things that I might be opposed to. I think it's worth having a conversation and real analysis about what we're doing. So that's one thing I would want to do right away, is to begin to look at what is that burden? What are we doing? What are we doing for revenue generation? How are we talking with our residents, making sure that they're not going to be saddled with an ever-increasing tax bill? But at the same time, that also may mean we do need to have a leader, a mayor that can work with the city council, because if we find out, one, that we certainly don't want to saddle our residents with ever-increasing taxes, then we may have to make some very tough choices and prioritize some things. And so that prioritizing what we're going to have to pull back on and what we are going to have to be careful that we continue to support. For instance, we have to support services, city service, the one that you come to expect, roads and garbage and all of that. But one thing that I know we want to do, and I've heard this from so many residents, every part of the city, people want an effective, proactive dealing with homelessness. And so in my first year, hopefully that may be one of the big priorities I'll try to convince the city council to work with me on. But that means then we still have to have a deep conversation about where we may need to cut spending so that we won't keep coming back, but also really work overtime in the meantime to find out new areas of revenue generation.
Jazz, Hampton taxes and budget, please.
Yeah. You know, for the last 5 years, I've run my own organization that's based right here, a small business based in Minneapolis. And I'm also a professor of entrepreneurial finance, so I care deeply about how dollars are spent, and that's why I'm excited to talk about this topic. The first, is the amount that we're currently taxing people correct? My favorite part about talking to residents in Minneapolis is they are not first to say, well, our taxes are too high or they're going up too much. They're saying, if they're going to go up this much, please make sure the services go up that much with them. That's the beauty of Minneapolis, is our residents are saying, if it's going to be an extra technology fee for our students, I'm happy to do it. Just make sure we implement it well. So how do we do that prioritization? We have to talk about public safety. And I'm not just talking about police officers, the entire public safety infrastructure. We have to make sure that our dollars are going there because we need the work there right now. The next thing that we hear the most about is affordable housing. And of course, yes, I'm talking about encampments and ensuring that we have low barrier shelters, but I'm also talking about the person that works at the coffee shop on 30 or 42nd and Grand and lives within a mile and a half and wants to be able to pay rent in that space as well. That's where our dollars have to be prioritized. And here's the one that we do not talk about often enough. If my kids have to go to before and after school care in the city of Minneapolis, we have to pay $1,650 a month for our 3 children in public school to have care before and after within the school building. We have to wrap our arms around our school system, which is already underwater as well. And that work has to be bolstered in this city too. And all of this can be possible if we pull in more tax dollars from small businesses by supporting them and making sure they can be successful in this city right now. Making sure that the connective corridors like 38th and Grand or connective corridors on North Broadway are available to make small businesses successful, because if they are, that tax burden doesn't fall on our residents. And the last part, 30% of our property taxes, the dollars we spend, 30% of it comes from the residents, 70% comes from other places, and we need to dig in further there.
Senator Fateh?
Yeah, we got to make sure that our property taxes or our taxes in general are not burdening our working families. What I've heard loud and clear from residents is that they're suffering from raising not just in rents, the cost of food, cost of clothing, gas, everything, coupled with health insurance, childcare. And on top of that, Trump's policies that are causing the cost of goods and services, everything to skyrocket. Folks are really being burdened now more than ever. And we know that the city's budget is a moral document. And we got to get back to the basics, investing in our basic services and cutting the wasteful spending as well. We keep spending tens of millions of dollars, for example, on police misconduct settlements. That's tens of millions of dollars that can go towards our youth, our seniors, making our city more affordable, small business grants. If we just do the right thing and hold our police force accountable and have a public safety system that works for all of us, we don't have to waste that much money. Now, in terms of, I believe the third question was around different revenue sources, additional taxes. I would support working with the state to have a local income tax for our wealthy, having a local wealth tax. I think that would be the right approach. Things like the land value tax, so that we can bring in extra revenue. By the way, which isn't just a radical idea, it's also a bipartisan idea. I got a Republican senator to sign on that legislation, Senator Glenn Gruenhagen, who might be a little bit to the right of me, slightly, to sign on. So these aren't radical ideas. These are ideas in which I believe that it would be good for the city.
Mr. Mayor, the last few budgets have been yours.
Property taxes are indeed a regressive tax. They disproportionately impact both low-income people and seniors. And by the way, this is the people's money. And so we need to make sure that we are good stewards of that money. We need to spend those dollars efficiently, and we need to make sure that we're gathering resources wherever we can. We worked hard to drive down the tax burden on residents. And the truth is, we needed to go even further. I took an unprecedented step of vetoing the budget this last year. Not for my health, but because it added millions and millions of dollars that would ultimately be on the backs of taxpayers. Also, because it cut services that we need to do, like turning on the streetlights or hiring more police officers. And then it gave that money to a series of nonprofits. Those are good nonprofits. They're benevolent nonprofits. But the first thing that we need to prioritize is core city services. We need to be working directly with the state. We have not gotten the amount of local government aid that we used to since about the Pawlenty administration. And here's the thing. For every $3 that Minneapolis produces in tax revenue that goes to other areas of the state, we get one back. And we're proud to support smaller towns and cities throughout Minnesota. And at the same time, Minneapolis is the economic engine of our entire state. We need to make sure we've got the lobbying team in place that advocates for the necessary dollars that we need and we deserve here in Minneapolis. So what do we focus on? We focus on public safety. We focus on affordable housing. We focus on those core city services, from filling the potholes to plowing the streets. We do it well, we do it efficiently, and we make sure that we drive down that tax burden for the residents of our city.
I can see somebody on response. Senator, go ahead.
Yeah, the vetoing of the entire budget was irresponsible. The mayor simply could have worked with the city council to come up with a budget that's in agreement with everyone. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the relationships with them to do so. Now, we know that we can't go at it alone. Again, we need to partner with the state to bring in some dollars to help our city advance some of our basic services. Last year, I remember at the end of last year, I met with Councilmember Amy Koch, and we're talking about some of the needs within the city of Minneapolis, one of which was the need for more traffic calming funding, in which the mayor was severely underfunding. And so we worked really hard with the transportation chair, Senator Scott Dibble, who's also a Minneapolis delegation member, to have a bill for $1 million in traffic calming. And that's a victory for everyone, right? But unfortunately, if you don't have the relationships with the state partners to bring in funding, none of this is possible.
I'd like to respond to that. So, look, I will work with anyone that will work in good faith with me. And at the same time, I will not abdicate my responsibility to do the right thing for this city. I will not be a rubber stamp for the city council. We're going to do what is right for the 435,000 residents that call Minneapolis home and the many more that come and go. Sometimes that means pushing back on proposals that would have, for instance, Uber and Lyft leave the city. Sometimes that means pushing back on proposals that would literally shut down Chicago at George Floyd Square permanently to all through traffic. It's hard to do sometimes, but it's the right move. You work with people, you try to find common ground, and at the end of the day, you also need to make sure that you're standing up for the city and what's right.
Reverend Davis, you want to say something?
Yeah, this is, again, one of my concerns about where we are in this city. At a time when we have so many challenges in front of us, at a time when we have a federal administration that is determined to attack us and not collaborate us, we cannot be caught in these false choices. We need leadership that is willing to work cross-jurisdictionally, cross ideology, across approaches to make sure that we are responding to the needs. And so that's why I get really concerned when I hear the tit for tat, the fighting back and forth. This is not a time for that. There are too many things in front of us right now for us to be factionalizing ourselves and beating up each other over wanting to do the right thing for this city.
Senator Fateh, I think when viewers, they probably would want me to ask you this. You mentioned a wealth income tax. What is that number? What is wealth for you in the Minneapolis? Who would you tax?
For me, it would be about $1 million and above. However, that's something that I have to work with the city council and with other stakeholders to formulate that policy. It'd be irresponsible for me just to be coming up with a number and then pursuing that. However, I want to talk about one last thing. And there's a big difference between what the mayor is saying, being a rubber stamp, versus a one-man government. And we need now more than ever to work with our partners and collaborate with them. And what we heard from members, not just elected officials, but from community, residents, is saying that what's equally important to good policy are good relationships. And unfortunately, the mayor does not have that. He doesn't have it with the city council. He doesn't have a single endorsement from the county level, county commissioners, and he doesn't have a single state legislator endorsing him. And that's because the last 8 years, he failed to build those relationships with them. So it's not about a radical city council that can't work with him. It's his failures to work with people.
So he said that I don't have endorsements from the county. I'm pretty sure that Sheriff DeWayne Witt works at the county. He's talked about me not having support from the state. I'm pretty sure that Governor Walz works for the state. I'm proud to have the support of both of them. And it goes beyond that. I'm proud to have the support of Andy Lugar, who was our U.S. attorney, because he understands the importance of ethics and integrity in the mayor's office.
You guys all have great endorsements. I've seen all of them. It's amazing that, you know, that for 4 candidates you have as many endorsements as you do, and they're all, I know, on your websites. We want to squeeze at least one more question in. Today, it's very timely. Target laid off 815 workers. Many of those jobs are in the heart of downtown. It's just the latest in several changes for downtown businesses since COVID. What is your plan to revitalize downtown Minneapolis? And Jazz Hampton, I think it's time, this time we start with you.
Yes.
And if you could, bus traffic on as well, if you'd answer that part of it.
Yeah, and maybe I'll start with the bus traffic question. For those who don't know, the question is whether we remove buses from the Nicollet Mall or not.
Thank you.
And my fear is in that moment we're treating a symptom rather than the underlying issue. What that underlying issue might be is the need for additional services to move people that are not there to go to the restaurants or to commute to a different location, maybe a location where we have services, and that is the work we have to do, not moving a bus system in this moment. To improve downtown, I always use my own personal life as an example. I lived on 9th and Portland right when you get off of 35W and the CVS closed. And then after the CVS closed, where we got our formula and diapers for our newborn daughter, then the coffee shop closed. And we didn't have the walkability that we needed anymore, and so we left downtown. You know what's better than getting folks into the office 4 or 3 days a week? It's getting people to live on the outskirts and within downtown Minneapolis. That can also revitalize the small business corridors that we need to help in this moment. And yes, we have to ensure that more small businesses can go into Nicollet Mall. That means working with developers or real estate holders and saying, if you're holding this land, why won't you parse off a 40,000 square foot place to make it smaller, to give that small business opportunity a chance. And we can work with them by ensuring that we're going to cut down on the permitting time that is happening in this city and the time it takes for inspections. When I talk to small business owners, especially restaurant owners, they're telling me that is what's preventing them from having that confidence in this moment. And I'm going to dedicate our services to doing that at a faster rate. And it's a tragedy that so many people lost jobs today at Target, and I know people that were personally affected. And what we have to ensure is that not only small businesses, all the way up to our big corporate partners that are here, are not leaving and they're feeling safe within this city. Improving public safety is a part of that, but also ensuring that they have a place to go out to eat that isn't just in the North Loop is also a part of it as well.
Senator Fateh, downtown?
Yeah, the downtown that the mayor inherited when he first took office, and the downtown is a dream compared to the downtown in which we have right now. But the downtown that we have still is full of opportunity and potential. You mentioned the Nicollet Mall buses. That's something that I would not support. I would like to keep them. I want to make sure we're supporting our transit riders, our workers, our residents that want to go in and out downtown Nicollet Mall and be mobile around our transit system. And I think that's the smart approach to take. I want to ensure that we're filling our storefronts with local small businesses, ensuring that we're removing barriers for folks to start up a business. That's why I want to have a strong Office of Small Business Support that can provide startup grants for businesses, that can provide multilingual support ongoing, provide a way which people can connect in terms of when we're making policy decisions around businesses and the surrounding area that can impact them, like we saw in Hennepin Avenue, for example. I think that's the responsible thing to take. Now, the mayor can claim that all that is happening already, but when you talk to folks on the ground, when you talk to local businesses, they don't know where to start. They don't know who to connect to. They don't know where to go. There's not effective outreach or education on where to go. We think that's the right approach. We need to make sure our storefronts are filled up. We got to make sure that our folks have the opportunity to purchase the properties once they're business owners as well. And we got to make downtown thriving also by supporting the workers, the folks that help when folks want to go to a venue or go to a stadium game or enjoy one of the restaurants, that our workers are having a livable wage and that our businesses, our small businesses are also supported. And I think we can do all the above.
Thank you. Mayor Frey.
Senator Fateh, a few years ago, we had this global pandemic called COVID-19. And it forever changed the way that people thought about work. The whole concept of remote or distance work, it was probably inevitable, but it got expedited by about 5 to 8 years by COVID-19. And so cities around the country are having to respond faster. And here's the thing. It's not going to be the cities that cling white-knuckled to what once was that are ultimately successful. It'll be those that embrace change that ultimately get the job done. I was the council member of North Loop before it was the North Loop that it is today. And when I took office, what we said is we want everything all in one neighborhood. We want residential, we want commercial, we want bars and restaurants, even light industrial, all in one neighborhood. And when you've got that diversity of use, you have people walking through the space at all times during the day and night, you have eyes on the street, and that ultimately helps to keep people safe. Now, I'll tell you an area where we don't have that diversity of use because it was built for a singular use, the core of downtown. It was built so that everybody comes into work around 8 a.m. and then leaves around 5:30 p.m. So what do we need to do? First, we need to create a diversity of use in the core of downtown. Second, we need to transition older pre-World War II commercial buildings and office space to residential. Third, we need to create a vibrancy on the street that is created by and supported by small and local businesses. That means breaking up the space of some of these larger conglomerates to make sure that that small and local business can pay rent. It means you're able to walk down the street and have 1,000 different tastes and smells and sounds and people all on one block. It means you're able to grab a drink, get some dinner, go to the theater or a Twins game and grab a coat all in the same vicinity. That's part of what makes a city great. We can lean into that and ultimately get there.
Yes.
It's my time.
Please, yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Gibbs.
I love this conversation about downtown, and it's so striking to see that North Loop is just a few blocks away from the downtown core. And I talked to a few developers who built projects in North Loop, and the one thing that they said was so powerful to me was that they were only limited by their imagination. That is, it was an open canvas and an ability to work with the city to make sure that we were expediting review. We were looking at opportunity things that we hadn't even dreamed of before, like a site with multiple restaurants on. And so what we need to do is to bring that same kind of energy to the core of downtown. Unfortunately, I think we've allowed that way of doing business, where businesses were leasing just floors and floors of office space. We've allowed ourselves to think that that was going to always be happening. But right now, what we have to do is to begin talking about not only, something like cutting up those buildings and making some smaller parcels and to entice small businesses to come. But I was just reading the Minneapolis Joint Disparity Study that was talking to all small business. And the one thing that we're missing, here's that part. Small business would be willing to do quite a bit of things. Smaller portions, they may want to move downtown core, but they simply do not have information. They don't have information about those grant programs. They do not have information about what are some bid opportunities with the public sector, with the city. They don't have information about what kind of subcontractor opportunities they have. And so when we're in conversation with small business, but we're also in conversation with those large corporations, we need to be making that connective tissue. How are we all working together to make sure that downtown becomes something that we all can enjoy once again? And that's going to require thinking again like we did with North Loop, but bringing that to the core of downtown.
Gentlemen, appreciate it. We'd like to move on to a lightning. I can't believe how fast this went by, but we want to move on to a lightning round, and these could be, well, you know what? Can you stay for one more question? Our producer said we could go a little longer.
Yeah.
Is that cool with you?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about that then. For months, you guys have campaigned, and you've campaigned really, really hard as individuals. It seems like recently there's this coalition that's been formed. We're just asking if you could explain to voters what's changed and why you three are now kind of co-campaigning or combining forces in the ranked choice voting system, saying do this and not Frey. I know it's the Slate for Change. I'm a Minneapolis resident. I got this in the mail. You don't like showing this, Chaz? Or?
No, that's not made by any of us.
I know it's not, but I do know specifically that on your website, you guys did a joint door knocking thing. So I guess instead of me saying, why are you joining forces, I'll frame it this way. Are you joining forces?
Let me answer that. Again, I want to start off, first of all, this is a narrative that I think serves the mayor. Because if he has to address each one of us, then he wouldn't have time to create this contrast that he wants to create. Look, the voters have options. They can vote for 3 candidates. And so what you're holding there are organizations and voters who have decided that they are going to create, they're going to try to tell people, how can you feel your 3 choices? Should the voters not exercise their 3 choices? That could have been any iteration of voters, but voters of candidates. But voters have decided that if they have ranked choice and they have 3 choices, then they want to present to people who they can fill out their ballots with. Now, it has to be said, if I were running to prop up somebody, I wouldn't be standing here now debating these gentlemen. If I were running to prop up somebody else, I would not have quit my job and up in my life to do something that I think is important for the city that I love. So I want to disabuse anybody of any notion that voters who are exercising their right and their choices are choosing that doesn't mean that there is some kind of alliance that I'm running to prop up anybody else. And again, that only serves one person, by the way, to say that, an incumbent who can't address all of us individually because we are bringing real issues to the table and addressing what has been lacking in 8 years of leadership.
Well, I'm not bringing this up for the incumbent, but did you object to this when you saw Minneapolis for the Many make it? Did you say, I don't want to be part of this?
As a candidate, I cannot tell an independent expenditure to do anything with their funds. I don't know. I cannot communicate or talk to anybody about what they're doing.
Didn't you organize something called Slate for Change, a joint door knocking operation that I saw on your website?
Yes. That's joint. Those are voters who said, can you all do that?
Okay. Go ahead, please. I'm trying to figure it out and learn more, and I think the people watching want to learn too, Jazz. So if you could help on that, that'd be great.
And I can only speak for myself and for my campaign. I have never and will never say, don't rank Frey, the phrase that you said earlier, because I think that disempowers voters from doing whatever they want. My campaign has raised, I'm making estimates here, roughly half or 1/10 of what the mayor's campaign has raised. So to that point, if a sitting city council member says, will you come to this event, and there's going to be 2 other people there, by golly, yeah. Will you come to this event in front of voters that favor rent stabilization when maybe you think there are other things that we can do instead? Of course I will, yes. I always talk about this conversation like a college fair. If Southwest High School is going to say, there's college fair, please come, I'm going to bring mine forward. And I'm not going to tell you not to go to a different college or not to apply to it, but if there is a great way for me to reach a mass of people in an efficient way possible, what kind of campaign would I be running if I did not attempt to do that? I have never said not to vote for any person. I have said to rank your ballot, just like applying to colleges, only apply to the ones that you want to go to. And I hope that you want to go to mine first and foremost. And if you have some safety schools after that, that's good too. But I am not, and so if there's an opportunity, whether a city council member is putting it on, whether either of these 2 to my left or right, or the mayor puts on. If the mayor put on an event and said, Jazz, would you like to come and we're going to have just 1 or 2 other candidates, I'd be there. I always will be. That is the point of ranked choice voting. Yes. That's how the mayor in 2017, that his coalition of winning was a ranked choice voting coalition across the city with multiple folks. I don't want to disenfranchise anybody from having the opportunity to vote for who they want, and I won't tell them not to. That is the thesis of my campaign, and that's the only one that I can speak for.
Thank you. Senator?
Yeah, we can't disempower our voters. We want to make sure that no matter how much the mayor wants to make this a binary choice, that on this stage right now, there are three choices. And I've come to the conclusion that these are the 3 best options right now. And so the city does have a choice. Do they want a mayor that said that he will end homelessness within 5 years and fail to do so, or do they not? Do they want a mayor that said that he'll stand with the Uber and Lyft drivers and then ended up vetoing their bill, or do they want change? Do they want a mayor that said he banned no-knock warrants, lying, and that resulted in the death, and after the death of Amir Locke, him saying that language was casual? Or do they want a different route? Do they want a mayor that said our downtown workers are working from home in nasty cat blankets and are lazy? Or do they want a different route? Do they want a mayor that said that he'll stand with the Labor Standards Board and ended up not doing it and vetoing their ordinance and screwing over our workers? Or do they want a different route? And what we're saying together is that we want a mayor that has a different direction, that supports our workers, supports our immigrants, supports every member of our city, and not just lies to our people. And as I said before, now more than ever, our city needs a leader, not a liar.
So he's saying go to a college fair and pick any college. You're saying you want to start your own college as long as it's not him. Is that right? I'll let you go ahead and answer this.
I am as confused as you are right now. You don't need to take my word for it. You can present it before them. You looked on their website. They have a slate for change, but really it ends up being a slate for Senator Fateh because he is by far the leading challenger. Now, here's the thing. They took about 2 minutes to try to explain their way around the simple truth that they have a coalition where they are telling people to rank each other. There's only 3 ranks that you get. Senator Fateh said himself, you have 3 choices up here. Last time I checked, there were 4 people up here, and there's another 10 or so candidates beyond that. Here's the thing. Minneapolis voters are smarter than that. They think for themselves, they think independently, and they know enough to understand that they don't need to rank each person of these 3 in some order. They can think for themselves about what the best choice is for the city, and I will yield the rest of my 50 seconds over to them so that they can figure out whether, in fact, they are a team that's working together or not.
Reverend Davis, I saw your hand
I want to
first.
respond to that.
All right.
Well, that's interesting because I've seen all of the independent expenditures that are supporting you send out mailers telling people how to rank. Oh, I think it's interesting. You said that they can make that choice for themselves. Well, the independent expenditures that are supporting you are sending out mailers that are telling people how to rank their ballots. That's an interesting concept. You said, listen.
We each speak for ourselves. I speak for myself, and you speak for yourself. That's right.
I am running because I am tired of your inadequate leadership rooted in personal ambition, in moral blindness, and ideological purity. I want a city that's going to, and so I'm running for myself. I'm not running for these two others, and I'm not running for you. I'm running to be mayor of this city.
Jazz Hampton.
When I made an announcement video running, I said I'm not running against anyone, I'm running for the city. And frankly, that's offensive to say that I'm running, and it is to support someone else. My kids are watching at home right now, and Penelope, my 8-year-old, I love you, and I'm not spending this time to ensure someone else runs. Hendrix, I'm sorry, when I got home, you were holding that Adam Thielen book, and I couldn't read it to you. I'm running to improve the city that I love, that I spent my whole life in front of. My youngest, Malcolm, who I was dancing with to Defying Gravity last night, I'm running to improve this city. And any situation or implication that I'm doing anything else is personally offensive. And let me say this, when I put a yard sign in a yard recently that had the mayor's yard sign in it and then mine next to it, I knew that someone was going to rank in that order.
Yes.
And I'm proud of that.
Respect that. We're certainly not meaning to insult you. We're just trying to clear it up, and I appreciate it. Senator?
Yeah, and my name was brought up, so I want to make one thing very clear, because when the mayor doesn't get his way, he tends to lie. And you can turn back the tape. What I very clearly said is, on this stage, there are 3 options in front of you. And these are the 3 best options that I believe that I'm going to be ranking on my ballot. And I want to make that very clear.
Great. Please.
You know, we ask people to rank their votes with their independent thoughts. I don't know how you get around it. You have a coalition of 3 people that is in fact working together. As mayor, you answer questions honestly and you answer questions simply. The question was not about what a PAC is doing, but what these candidates support doing. Yes, they do in fact have a coalition. There's no amount of rhetoric that gets around that, and I know that Minneapolis voters can choose for themselves.
I'm excited about this part because it's really easy, and there are no right or wrong answers, guys, and you're going to like it. We just called a lightning round. We just prepared some really quick, maybe 1 or 2 word answers, and people might think they're trite, but I think it'll give people a better idea of like who you are as people and where you go and what you do. So we'll start with you, Reverend. Favorite park?
North Commons Park.
Nice.
Lake Harriet Band Show, a playground and a beer.
Yeah, and ice cream.
Yeah, that's right.
I play basketball mostly at PV Park.
Shoot square. Shoot square.
Favorite restaurant? We'll go back in this order.
Ooh.
Yeah, you might have to name 2.
Yeah, that's
right? So
hard.
you don't
All
lose
right,
any
right
votes.
now I'm going FEMA's.
Okay.
I'll say Olive Kitchen.
All right.
Parcel, because I got to grab and go right now.
Free House. I go there more than anything.
Oh, yeah. Excellent
I
menu.
was there last night.
Favorite sports team, Reverend?
Twins.
All right.
Vikings.
Yeah.
Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Timberwolves.
Okay. All right. Some consensus. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. I know you're busy. Each candidate now is going to have 1 minute. They'll have the ability to do a closing statement. And again, the order that we're going to go with was through the random drawing, and that'll be how we started. So the order will be Reverend Davis, Mr. Hampton, Senator Fateh, and Mayor Frey. So 1 minute for whatever you like, Reverend.
I'm DeWayne Davis, and I hope that you will rank me first. And the reason I want you to rank me first is because I know that this city can do better. I know that we are uniquely situated to address not only our issues, but we're uniquely situated to resist what's coming out of Washington. But what it's going to take, it is collaborative leadership, cross-jurisdictional cooperation with every level of government to make sure that we address our needs. And here's the thing, Minneapolis has done this time and again. And we're in a mission moment. So I'm asking you to join me in this work to bring out the very best of who we are for this city. We can address our rising property taxes. We can address our homelessness crisis. We can make sure that we have a public safety system that works for every citizen across this city. Join us for that forward-looking vision and make Minneapolis the city we know she already is.
Appreciate you coming in this evening. Jazz Hampton?
Thank you all for being here and watching. My name is Jazz Hampton, and I hope that today, before you go and vote on November 4th, I have earned your first place rank. I'm running because I have lived here for my entire life, and I know the potential of this city. I know what we can reach for, and I want to ensure that we're doing that. And sometimes it feels like we're in a cycle of gridlock, or the tires are spinning in snow. And I'm here to inject something new, to be a chance for us to get that traction that we need, to ensure that public safety is where we hope that it can be, to ensure that when we're talking about affordable housing, everyone can pay their rent. And when we're talking about our schools, we know that the Minneapolis public school system and beyond will be successful. That's what I'm running to do. And in this moment, whether it's an endorsement, first-string choice from Councilmember Koski or other candidate or other city council members that might not have the exact same policy backgrounds as me, here's the beauty of it. I'm here to get to that table to work with them. If you look at any publication about me, you'll see that it'll call me a bridge maker or a peacemaker or a bridge builder. That's what I'm here to do in the city, and I can't wait to do it with you.
We appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks. Senator Fateh.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me. And this fight that we embarked on in December, for me right now feels a little bit different. And it feels different after the birth of my son, Imran. And I envision a city in which when he needs to be uplifted, he gets the support that he needs. And when he stumbles, and inevitably he will stumble, that he has folks in the city that will uplift him and lift him up. But unfortunately, right now, we are living in a tale of two cities. One for the wealthy and the well-connected, and then the rest of you, the renters, the transit riders, our immigrants, our seniors, our young people, left with crumbs. One side gets protection and priority, and the rest of us get broken promises and vetoes. I'm honored to be endorsed as a first-choice candidate by 6 out of the 13 city council members. I'm honored to be endorsed by a whole host of unions such as SEIU, Unite Here, our teachers at MFE, which I was with today, and our Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. And so I hope to earn your first-choice support in this election.
Senator Fateh, thank you. We appreciate you being here as well. Mayor Frey, minute.
Senator Fateh, congratulations on your son, Imran. I know what it means to be a dad and how important and fulfilling it is. And I love Minneapolis. I'm raising my 2 kids here, a 5-year-old and, as you know, a 3-month-old. And I want to make sure that this city realizes every bit of potential. I'm not the same mayor as I was when I took office. I am not the same person. You learn lessons that make you a better mayor, that make you a better leader. And I use those lessons every single day for the sake of this city. And right now we are at a crossroads. We can go down a route that is about rhetoric and social media posts, or we can do the hard work of good governance that benefits our city, that builds more affordable housing, that ensures public safety for everybody. But the bottom line is I want to make sure that this is a place where my kids and yours, my parents and yours, are proud to call home.
Thank all of you for joining us tonight. Appreciate your time. Thanks also, of course, to our viewers and the voters who are watching tonight. Of course, we encourage you to all go out. We'll have full coverage of this election next Tuesday. Right now, though, we want to go to Esme Murphy. She has some highlights and analysis of the debate. Hi, Esme.
That is right, Frank. Great job on the debate. They covered just about every topic you could imagine. And I'm sitting here with 2 analysts, Jeff Hayden, the former Deputy Senate Minority Leader, Democrat, and former GOP Senate Majority Leader, Amy Frederickson. Thank you so much for sitting through that, especially for the Republican in the room. Let me ask you, really, they just about covered everything, you know, through Frank's questions. What do you think? Jeff Hayden, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, I thought all of them were very poised. They are
very poised.
They're very poised, and they've grown a lot. You know, they've had a lot of practice. I think you saw. They're all Democrats and essentially all progressive, but they're nuanced in terms of how they would, you know, approach things. And so I thought it was a decent performance by, you know, all of them. I don't think there was any clear winners or losers in this debate.
Amy?
Well, so as the Republican, it's interesting to watch the debates.
And there are a few Republicans
maybe
in Minneapolis.
15% Republicans in the
Yes.
city of Minneapolis. But all Republicans, everyone in the state should care about what goes on in Minneapolis because there's an economic engine. Not to mention our entertainment capital. We've got the Twins, we've got the Vikings. Yeah. It's a big deal and it's very important. So watching this is important. I get struck by some of the bigger fights were around, you know, is there a MAGA candidate in this race? I assure you, there is no MAGA candidate in this this race.
No.
There's no
Jacob Frey,
Republican in this race.
Yeah.
We would have a very different debate if that were the case. So that's
I don't
always
think there's a
strikes
moderate
me.
in the race either.
I don't think there's a moderate in the race.
Well,
look, these are,
Perhaps you could
these
say
are
only in
dumb.
Minneapolis would Jacob Frey be considered moderate or conservative. But
Only
let
in
me ask you a
Minneapolis.
hot...
We like to see the difference between cappuccino and latte. You know
Okay. Let me ask you this. We've got a hot moment here. One of the hot moments happened early on when Frank asked about public safety, and Senator Fateh and the mayor squared off on the issue of defunding the police. Let's take a look.
Senator Fateh has clearly stated that he wanted to defund the police. That is not the right route in Minneapolis. We need to build back the police department. We need to make sure that when people call 911 during the most difficult circumstances of their life, they have response.
The 2021 vote in the city about creating a Department of Public Safety versus a police department, and you did support that.
Absolutely, I did support that, and that was meant to have a public safety system in which you have an Office of Public Safety, Department of Public Safety, and law enforcement police under that, because that's what neighbors wanted.
Jeff Hayden, your thoughts on Senator Fateh clearly trying to say that he never supported defunding the police when he did support that charter amendment.
Yeah, he certainly supported the charter amendment, and the movement was defund the police. The charter amendment was the manifestation of the defund the police movement. So I think the mayor was right to say that Senator Fateh supported defund the police. Where Senator Fateh is today, maybe that's what he was articulating. But at the time, he certainly was part of a large group of progressive folks that I know very well that wanted to defund the police.
Mayor Frey tried to make the case that Minneapolis is back, and in terms of crime and where we were just a few years ago with the tragic murder of George Floyd, we're back. Do you think he made that case strongly enough?
You know, I've always thought that, perhaps not, in my opinion, but I think in large part because Minneapolis has lagged other cities across the country, even owing to COVID. And he's right to say, 5 years ago, COVID devastated all big cities. But Minneapolis, by many metrics, has not come back as fully as some other cities across the country. And I think it's okay and fair for an opponent to ask, why not? Now, some of the solutions offered, in my opinion, by the other opponents are not going to actually resolve anything but make things potentially worse.
All right, we will be back with Jeff and Amy in a moment, but first we want to go to Caroline Cummings at the live desk, who has been doing a deep dive on an issue you heard about tonight, and that is homelessness. Caroline?
Well, hi there, Esme. So you did hear about homelessness, what the candidates plan to do to tackle the issue, and also how they would approach encampments. According to the most recent city data, 13 of them were cleared by the city from December through mid-March, but we do know that number grew throughout the summer. It's just not in any public available report yet. Here's what we know about investment to tackle this issue over the last several years. Since 2018, the city of Minneapolis invested more than $400 million in affordable housing and homelessness prevention. That includes housing development projects that are underway that include a portion of the units being designated for people specifically experiencing homelessness. You heard State Senator Omar Fateh say that he wants to move the homeless response teams from regulatory services to the health division because these encampments are a public health crisis. He took Frey to task on the encampments that keep popping up under his watch. The city will close one, but another will arise. Some of the criticism against Frey has been clearing encampments with few beds available for people to go to. Hennepin County tracks the available number of beds in the morning and evening every night, and there is an average of 20 beds available at 10 a.m., but that plummets to 11 by nightfall. But Frey argues that his administration does approach encampments first by trying to connect people to services and medical care before any encampment is cleared, which you're seeing here. He mentioned that encampments are removed only after people repeatedly are offered assistance, but they deny it. According to city data, shelter or housing options were accepted only 20% of the time from that data that's only available from December to March. And calls for 311 and 911 services near the areas where those encampments were dropped by 90% after the closures. Esme, we're going to send it back to you for some additional commentary and analysis with our esteemed panel you've got there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Caroline. All right, folks, another hot take. The debate over whether the Minneapolis police should be able to arrest federal agents, the context was within an immigration raid. Senator Fateh has said that if they are wearing masks, that should be illegal, and the Minneapolis police should be able to arrest them. Let's listen.
So my simple question to Senator Omar Fateh is this: how will you arrest federal agents? How will you have MPD arrest people with bigger guns than we have in a situation that is blatantly against the law?
Why don't you answer, Senator, and then we'll get the other guys.
No, thank you. Simply enforcing the law, and that's a cute soundbite, but again, he's unable and unwilling to do so because the same people that bankrupt the Trump campaign to put him to office, to push for these exact same unconstitutional violations and policies have been bankrolling his campaign.
That's not answering the question.
So is Mayor Frey in Donald Trump's camp? I mean, I wasn't sure what the point was there, but your thoughts, Jeff?
Well, I mean, I think the context matters, and so the issue that happened on Lake in Bloomington, what I understood is it was federal law enforcement, including ICE, that raided a restaurant that was accused of trafficking young women and selling methamphetamine, and they found that out.
Well, it was a narcotics raid and a search warrant that got way out of hand. So there's still confusing versions of what happened.
So and with that said, it sounded like to me, in listening to the chief and the Hennepin County Sheriff, that they were there for crowd control to try to not kind of have folks there. Here's the question. I think that that's a federal issue. I think that that's something that our U.S. senators and our congressional delegation need to deal with on how the officers' conduct looks. I don't think that it is in the purview of the mayor or the Minneapolis Police Department to tell federal law enforcement officials how to operate. If they're operating illegally, then I think that there is a structure to help with that. And I think that that's the answer.
You're perfectly right. That is the context. Amy Frederickson, your thoughts?
Right. Well, so exactly. My understanding about the situation also was much more nuanced than simply ICE raids, right? That as it was painted, there was drugs and trafficking and really bad things happening in the area as well. But you are setting up, if you want to talk about arresting federal agents, you are setting up a really dangerous situation there, and it is more nuanced than just a simple, somebody said there, that's a cute soundbite, but it is, but the how and the what is much more intricate and nuanced than what was like sort of outlaid as just arrest them.
But with that being said, I do think that it is unfortunate and I'm not a lawyer, but I would say that it would certainly violate the ethics to have officers with masks on that aren't identifying themselves.
Well, and that's a federal issue.
Doing that.
I mean, that is clearly a federal issue.
That's an issue. I want to make sure
not a city issue at all.
I think we all would agree that.
Yeah, I want to thank you both for being here. Your insights were great. We have obviously appreciated your perspective. You've been watching our post-debate show on CBS News Minnesota. We're going to have more of a breakdown on this debate on our 10 p.m. newscast. We also have everything you need to know about the upcoming election on our website at WCCO.com. I'm Esme Murphy. Thank you so much for watching.
Hello there, I'm WCCO Chief Meteorologist Chris Schaefer. We bring back the sun tomorrow, and the temperatures will react, heading for a high around 54. We'll see more clouds early in the day. Call it increasing sunshine, and that's going to help our temps warm up nicely. 54 here, Wilmer, scratching your way up to 50. It will be in the 40s in northern Minnesota, but that's pretty typical for this time of year. The key is no more rain. You catch a break, all that steady rain that's been falling to the west. Thursday, another nice day with a high of 53. Glencoe around 50. I'll let you know if it stays dry for Halloween and the weekend coming up on CBS News Minnesota and WCCO.
This is WCCO News, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
I am here to share with you this morning that your position is one that's being eliminated.
Words that were hard to hear for hundreds of Target corporate workers in a virtual meeting. Thanks for joining us. It isn't just Target. Amazon is laying off tens of thousands of workers. According to state reports, the Target layoffs include about 530 employees at headquarters in downtown Minneapolis and another 290 who work at offices in Brooklyn Park. 800 open positions were eliminated. So what should you do next if you're now without a job? New at 6, Jason Rantala spoke with an expert to get some answers.
I realize this is likely very hard news.
That was the message relayed virtually to 1,000 Target employees Tuesday. They no longer have jobs. It's not just Target. Amazon is laying off 14,000 corporate positions.
What's going on? Why are we seeing so many layoffs?
CBS Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady tells me the answer varies.
Target has been struggling over the past few years. I just checked the stock price. It's down over 25% year to date. So this is very much a cost cutting, trying to get the ship back on track.
Amazon, on the other hand, is doing quite well, O'Grady says.
Trying to trim the layers of bureaucracy, especially as they pour more resources into AI and leverage artificial intelligence to become more efficient.
So what should you do if you suddenly find yourself jobless?
Such a difficult day for those impacted.
I asked a professional recruiter.
The first thing really is understanding your benefits.
Jenna Eslick says to know what severance pay is available and know your continuation of health coverage or COBRA. Also file for unemployment. When you're ready, Eslick says, update your resume.
Coming up with kind of what is your story, what is your talk track, right, around your position being impacted, what skills and experiences do you bring, and what sorts of opportunities are you looking for?
Also, ask your network for help.
Tapping into your network is so important.
In the meantime, O'Grady says, don't panic.
This isn't the moment, to sort of get all freaked out. I mean, I know it's a very tough situation, but having that clear level head.
Jason Rantala, WCCO News.
As for AI's impact on jobs in the future, O'Grady advises trying to learn and better understand it. Minneapolis educators say they are set to strike. An overwhelming majority voted in favor of walking off the job if they have to. Reg Chapman's live in North Minneapolis where those teachers have been rallying. Reg?
Well, Frank, this is supposed to be wrapped up about a half an hour ago, but if you look behind me, they are still marching. Hundreds of Minneapolis educators and their supporters raising their voices in solidarity, and basically after the teachers voted to authorize a strike. Now, they did march around the district headquarters in an effort to gain support for the demands. Teachers tell us they want smaller class sizes, more staff, and more pay. Educators say they want MPS to be a destination district where teachers stay and families want their kids to be a part of.
When we say destination district, we mean a destination district. We want to collaborate to make this the best district that it can be for our families and the children that we teach and the students that we teach.
In a statement today, the district says funding issues that are going to be obstacles in meeting all the teachers' demands, but said it remains hopeful that a student-centered and fair agreement can be reached. Now, the vote to authorize a strike does not mean that they will be able to go on a strike. There is another bargaining session set for Thursday of this week, Frank, and both sides say they hope that they can make an agreement or reach an agreement that will keep these educators in the classroom.
Yeah, we'll follow it closely, of course. Thanks, Reg. In another part of Minneapolis, protesters gathered to speak out against immigration and customs enforcement.
We are not here to negotiate the safety of our our community. We are here to demand it, and we expect nothing less.
The group met outside of the federal courthouse just days after a visit from the Secretary of Homeland Security. They are calling on city officials to oppose working with federal agents. The home improvement store has its own repair project to deal with after a car crashed right through its wall. Check out this video from Abbott Paint in St. Paul. The driver slammed into the showroom off of Grand Avenue this morning. Workers, though, were able to clean up all that mess, board it up, and credibly say they are open for business as usual. Police say the driver was an elderly woman who accidentally hit the gas. Thankfully, no one was hurt. It's a creative way to lend a helping hand during tough times, where a couple turned their driveway into a free little veggie library, and how you can help and get involved as well. And we're going to take you inside a new home for veterans rebuilding their lives in Ramsey County.